A federal high court in Abuja has granted bail to 10 Nigerians charged with treason for participating in last month's End Bad Governance protests. The judge, Emeka Nwite, set bail at 10 million naira each, with one surety who must have property worth the bail sum in Abuja. The sureties must also submit their passports to the court.
Now, the 10 defendants were arraigned on September 2nd and pleaded not guilty to all 6 charges, including inciting mutiny and conspiring to commit treason. The case has sparked a controversy, with many arguing that the charges are an attempt to silence dissenting voices. Joining us is human rights lawyer Deji Adeyanju. Good morning, Mr. Adeyanju. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for having me again on the show.
Thanks for your time. Let's get straight into, your views on the charges against these protesters. Do you find them completely shocking, or, right on the letter?
Beyond shocking, if I must say. But, this is a tyrannical regime. This is a regime that has no regard for democracy. This is a regime that has sworn that it must violate human rights, violate citizens' fundamental rights to freedom of assembly, freedom of expression, even freedom of the press. A regime that attacks journalists at protest venue, attacks on armed protesters. Why should anybody be shocked that such a regime will arrest, detain, and arbitrarily violate citizens' right to liberty guaranteed by the Constitution? Yes, one will have thought that a chief protester himself, someone who once called for revolution in this country, will respect rights of citizens to freedom of assembly. But alas, he has no regard. He has sworn that he's going to ensure that dissent is crushed in the country, and this is most regrettable. However, we must continue to urge citizens to forge ahead and challenge the government and hold the government accountable, and continue to press for the government to end bad governance, end corruption, end insecurity, end hunger, end inflation. Those are the issues. We refuse to be distracted by this never do well and government that has no intention of being held accountable.
All right. Let's talk about the court process so far. The End Bad Governance protesters have been granted bail to the tune of 10 million naira each, and sureties worth same sum, who must also be resident in Abuja. They've been asked to also submit their passports as well. Are you okay with the bail conditions? And, have they been able to fulfill the bail conditions? What's the current update regarding that?
We are already in the process of filing a motion for variation this morning at the Federal High Court. The reason is because majority of the protesters, some of them don't even live in Abuja. They were arrested in different locations in the country. Someone who was arrested in Kaduna, some arrested in Bauchi. How do you want him to get a surety with landed property within jurisdiction? So those are the conditions. Some do not even have international passports, So those are the reasons why we are filing for motion for variation this morning. We are just right in the process. That's why I'm not even in the office. We are right in the process of just filing the motion for variation.
And just to double check, whilst this motion is being filed, they are still remanded in the custody of the prison, right?
Yes. Because as long as protesters are not able to meet, the protesters have been granted bail are not able to meet the condition, yes, they will remain in custody. And you are aware that it is a vacation judge that is seized of the matter, jurisdiction of the matter. And also, additionally, if we're interested to know that there are almost 115 other protesters within the Federal Capital Territory jurisdiction that have been detained by the order of the court, but that have not been arraigned. Only 10, Michael Adaramoye, aka Lenin, Comrade Lenin, and 9 others who were arraigned before Justice Nwite's court. So we are also in the process of getting a date to vacate the remand order in respect of the other 115 protesters who are within FCT. And additionally, there are over 1,000 protesters in prisons across the country. in Kano, in Katsina, in Sokoto, and in other parts of the country.
Yeah, okay. I mean, also, to clarify, some of these protesters were, that are being charged now, were they all picked up in the FCT, or were they arrested in different parts of the country?
They were arrested in different parts of the country, and just very simple. Let me borrow the words of our leader, Femi Falana, who said that the government should make a U-turn from this evil path and discontinue trial and charges against the protesters, because protest can never be a crime.
Okay, I also want to ask, because we need to go, is there any information that we have about PDOM Nigeria, the young man who was also arrested in River State in Port Harcourt, and of course, kept in police custody for many days before, of course, everyone found out. Do you have any information on that case?
Well, basically, I do not know any PDOM. However, my client, Isaac Bristol, who has been arraigned, his bail application was taken yesterday, and my Lord Justice Nwete has adjourned to the 27th for ruling on the bail application. But I am aware that the police claim that they have a man called PDOM in custody. We urge them to release him or charge him before the court, and so that he can have his day in court. The said PDOM, in my view, has not committed any crime. And if he has committed any crime for being a journalist, then he should have his day in court. He should not be taken arbitrarily. And I am also sure that the police have several other people, maybe even 100 in custody, who criticize the government for dissent, who are journalists doing their work, who are not very much popular,
okay, we seem to be struggling a bit with the connection, and we're hoping that that's sorted.
The letters of our constitution as it regards to freedom.
All right. Deji, I think my final question would be regarding Isaac Bristol as well. The last time that we interviewed David Hundein, he mentioned that in a conversation with Isaac Bristol over the phone, Isaac Bristol had mentioned that there were attempts on his life and that something was sprayed in his cell and he was even coughing, and they had tried without his permission to inject him with some form of substance. We'd like to ask, if you have more details on this and if you can give us clarity. And if true, has there been any investigation in this regard?
Unfortunately, I cannot confirm or deny this. My brief is basically to defend Isaac Bristol in court. I do not have any further thing to say as regard to that particular issue. I have been busy handling the matter in court, and I do not know around the legal representation in that regard.
All right. Deji Adeyanju, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to having you again after filing the processes in court regarding the bill for the current, the End Bad Governance protesters. We hope we can have you again, maybe with some measure of good news. Let's see how that goes.
Thank you for having me.